Have a roll call, please.
Councilman Baji. Present. Councilman Walker.
Present.
Mayor Wheaton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eldridge. Here. Councilman Gilbert.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by Pastor Eddie Turner from Life Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this wonderful community of Cookeville and Putnam County. Father, we thank you for our city leaders who are not here for personal benefit. Each one of these men and women are already successful in their chosen personal vocations, yet they are sacrificing valuable time away from family to serve our community. Hundreds of us recognize their sacrifice and are appreciative and thankful. We ask for your favor, wisdom, and protection to rest upon each of them. May your abundant provision continue to rest upon our community with excellent jobs and resources. Thank you also for our civil servants who protect and serve us in so many ways. In a time when many cities have neglected your name and influence, our community has not. We need you and humbly ask for your continued blessings upon our treasured Cookeville and our citizens. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Item 5A, old business, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on, excuse me, nope, skip one. Yeah, sorry about that. Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
But we did add item 7G as we discussed at work session on Monday, which is the extension of the sale of the property on Woodmont Circle. So that's the only change from what we actually reviewed Monday.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Gilbert,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Now 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on November 17th, 2020. Is there a motion? 2022.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Baji. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 5B, consider on second and final reading ordinance 022-1128, amending Title 5, Chapter 1 of the Cookeville Municipal Code to increase the threshold for competitive sealed bids as per TCA Section 12.3.1212. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, we've had no calls or comments since first reading of this ordinance. And again, what this ordinance does, it increases the threshold where competitive bids would be required to $25,000 for all departments of the city of Cookeville. It also requires that any purchases between $10,000 and $25,000, the department must, if possible, obtain 3 cost estimates with the goal of trying to, again, to control the cost of the purchase of items. And as also noted on first reading, any purchase over $1,000 must be signed off and approved by the city manager, but I would recommend your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Gilbert. Is there any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 6A, consider awarding bids for transformers. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Baji. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7A, new business, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 022-1125, amending the zoning code illustration 24, dumpster detail to make gates optional. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Local developers have asked the city to review and consider amendments to our dumpster screening requirements relative to gates. The current standards require dumpster pads to have screened enclosures with gates to conceal the dumpster. Developers and property managers have persistent issues with the dumpster gates. The Public Works Department must open the gates to collect trash. The gates are left open after trash is picked up, and as a result are often subject to damage from wind or other factors. The dumpster gates are also occasionally damaged by the trash trucks. While the gates do provide aesthetic benefits when they are installed properly and securely closed, the city does recognize some issues with the dumpster gates. Also, there are concerns with vandalism that occurs when dumpsters have closed gates. Local developers feel they will be maintained better if not fully screened by the gates. This proposed amendment was developed after meetings with local developers and the Public Works Department. The proposed amendment to the zoning code illustration 24 dumpster detail would remove the requirement for gates to be installed along with dumpster pad screening and make them an option for new developments. The amendment would update the current zoning illustration by adding optional to the screening label, and this would only be optional if the dumpster was not visible from a public street. This amendment was recommended by the Planning Commission as recommended by the Planning Department. And I recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Bocci. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Is there any discussion? All vote.
Need to have your public hearing.
Oh, I'm not with it today. I'm sorry, y'all. We will now open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion. Now, is there a motion on 7A?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Bocci. Is there a second?
So moved.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion now from the council? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7B, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 022-1126, rezoning of a portion of one parcel located at 1650 Blackwell Road, tax map 083, parcel 077.04, from RS10, single family residential to LM light manufacturing. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here is a general location of the property proposed for rezoning. Here's a location map of the parcel. Here's an aerial view. It's our existing zoning. This property is currently split zoned LM light manufacturing and RS10 single family residential. The property is bordered by LM light manufacturing to the west, south, and east, and RS10 to the east and west, and RS15 to the north, and RMHP residential mobile home park to the west. The total area requested for rezoning is the northwest portion of the property, currently zoned RS10, and contains approximately 12 acres. The entire parcel consists of approximately 18 acres total. The rezoning request was submitted to allow for one zoning designation across the entire parcel for future development. The RS10 district is intended to provide a low to moderate density single-family residential environment in areas where public wastewater services are available. A minimum land area of 10,000 square feet is required per dwelling unit. The LM district is intended for light industrial uses and establishments involved in the manufacture, predominantly from previously prepared materials or finished products or parts, including in assembly, processing, fabrication, limited storage, wholesaling, and distribution of such products, but excluding basic industrial processing. Commercial and service uses in support of industrial uses are also permitted. The future land use concept element of the Cookeville 2030 plan depicts this area as best suited for mixed-use commercial, industrial, and lower density residential development. The subject property has frontage on Blackwell Road. Blackwell Road is classified as a local street with approximately 1,479 linear feet in length, as included on the city street inventory. This street was widened and extended with the Blackwell Road division plat recorded in 2010, adding a cul-de-sac. However, the portion of the street that was extended was never added to our street inventory. Portions of the street will need to be improved to support development on the site. Here's some pictures of Blackwell Road. You see public utilities are available to serve the subject property. The western and northern boundary of the property is bordered by Pigeon Roost Creek with significant floodplain area. Significant topographic relief exists along the northern boundary. The creek and floodplain serve as a natural buffer between the subject property and the single-family residential developments to the north and the mobile home park to the west. Also, a 36-inch gravity sewer main and sewer line easement transect the property along the north and west. Approximately 4.37 acres of the 12.02 total acres requested for rezoning are shown within the Pigeon Roost Creek floodplain area. The adjacent properties to the east and southwest are already zoned LM and contain commercial structures and services. And so that from the existing zoning map. Now we have some aerial views. This is looking north. You can see the cul-de-sac. It's just a vacant tract, somewhat wooded at this point. So this rezoning was approved by the Planning Commission as recommended by the Planning Department. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I recommend your approval.
Thank you. We will open the public hearing portion of this meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Councilman Gilbert. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 022-1127, establishment of RAO redevelopment area overlay district for the West Side Connection Plan, 21 lots located on South Cedar Avenue, tax map 053G, Group F, parcel 011.00, 011.01, 001.00, 002.00, and 005.01. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here's a general location of the proposed West Side Connection RAO. Here is a site map of these properties on West Spring, South Cedar, and South Oak Avenues. You see an aerial view of these properties. Our existing zoning. The subject area contains approximately 2.87 acres. The properties are zoned CBD, Central Business District, as are adjacent properties to the east, north, and west. The properties are bordered by CL Local Commercial to the west and the southeast corner, and by CN Neighborhood Commercial to the south. The future land use concept plan identifies this area as best suited for mixed-use commercial industrial development. The redevelopment area overlay district was established in 2013 as a mechanism for redevelopment, revitalization, rehabilitation, and general improvement to areas within the city of Cookeville as identified within the Cookeville 2030 plan as needing such action, or other areas within the city as may be determined as needing such action. Within RAO districts, the city may waive or modify certain development requirements to provide incentives for redevelopment, including increases in density, reductions in setbacks, reduction of lot sizes, and landscaping requirements. Specific criteria must be met for properties to qualify for RAO zoning, and detailed processes for approval must be followed. Only those uses permitted in the underlying zoning may be permitted within the RAO district. To qualify for RAO zoning, the site must contain a minimum of 1 acre when located within an area identified in the Cookeville 2030 plan as being in need of revitalization or redevelopment, contain a minimum of 2 acres when not located in such an area, or an area of less than minimum size may be considered if due to the number of dilapidated or condemned structures or other factors, it can be demonstrated that significant public benefit can be achieved. The developer must also adhere to an approved development plan. The process for RAO zoning approval includes several steps. First, the developer is required to meet with the planning division to determine whether RAO zoning is appropriate. If it is determined that the property is appropriate for an RAO, the developer must submit a request for overlay zoning, a written statement, and a preliminary RAO concept plan. The concept plan must include site, floor, and elevation plans. The Planning Commission, after reviewing the plan, must submit a recommendation to the City Council for approval, modification, or denial of the request. Upon receipt of the Planning Commission recommendation, the City Council then considers enactment of the overlay. Once the overlay is enacted, a final RAO plan must be submitted to and approved by the Planning Commission. The final RAO plan must be submitted within 6 months of the effective date of the enactment of the overlay by council, or the overlay becomes null and void. Extensions of no more than 18 months may be granted by the Planning Commission after approval by council. The final REO plan must substantially conform to the preliminary REO concept plan. Substantial modifications must be resubmitted to the planning commission. These subject properties include a commercial block structure, other storage buildings, sheds, and surface storage. The commercial building is the former location of a store and restaurant. The storage structures were utilized by Builder Supply for construction materials. Other areas of the property have been used for surface storage of raw materials. The properties proposed for an REO, including approximately 2.87 acres, meets the threshold for an area not located in the 2030 plan is needing revitalization and redevelopment. This proposal is for a multifamily development. Multifamily developments are permitted in the central business district upon review by the planning commission of a site plan, meeting the requirements of the zoning code, and if applicable, a subdivision plat submitted in accordance with the Cookeville subdivision regulations. The central business district requires 1,500 square feet per dwelling unit with no lot area of less than 5,000 square feet. The REO district allows a maximum density of 20 units per acre or 2,178 square feet per dwelling unit. The proposed REO plan depicts 20 three-story multifamily structures on individual lots for a total of 60 units. The proposed 60 units provides for a density of 2,083 square feet per dwelling unit, which is compliant with the CBD district density requirements. No minimum yard requirements are applicable in the CBD zone. At this location, the site plan depicts adequate visibility at the intersections. So that's adequate visibility at the two intersections is provided on the plan. The site plan includes three-story multifamily structures on individual lots, and those lots are proposed at less than 5,000 square feet. The developer has submitted the concept plan, floor plans, building elevations, and the statement. The site plan, as I said, is 20 three-story multifamily attached structures. Each structure includes a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit on each floor. The proposed development provides access from South Oak Street and South Cedar Avenue. We'll go through some of the building elevations. This is a zoomed in version of the plan. Here are our building elevations. That's the northern block. It has 7 structures, which would have 7 lots. There's the front, back, and side elevations. There's a zoomed in illustration of the front elevations. These are your floor plans. Each floor, like I said, is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. This is the western block. Again, same floor plans. One of the center blocks. This is the southern 2 building block. And the eastern block. The submitted REO plan depicts 15 feet of right-of-way from center line of South Oak and 20 feet of right-of-way from South Cedar Avenue. South Cedar Avenue is classified as a collector street and it requires 60 feet of right-of-way. South Oak is classified as a local street and requires 50 feet of right-of-way. The plan does depict dedication of 10 feet along both South Oak and South Cedar Avenue to meet the requirements, the minimum requirements for right-of-way for the classification of streets. 145 total parking spaces are required for this development, and the site plan depicts 148. Sidewalks will be required along all public street frontages and will be depicted on the final REO plan. There's existing sidewalk on South Cedar. Sidewalk improvements are necessary on Spring Street. There's some older sections there, but there's some missing sections, so that will all have to be improved, and sidewalk will have to be included along Oak. There is adequate utilities to serve the development with the exception of a sewer improvement. The Water Quality Control Department is requiring a segment of sewer be relocated and upsized on a section downstream to adequately serve this development. The developer is working with the Water Quality Control Department on these necessary improvements at this time. Oh, here we have some aerial views. As you can see, this is looking to the south from the alleyway. This is Ralph's Donuts. This is excluded from the plan. It includes everything south of the alley from Oak to Cedar to Spring. Looking back to the east. Looking to the north. Let's look into the west. You can see there's several of the concrete barriers that have been used for surface storage of raw materials, rock, gravel, things like that. There's several sheds on the property, a garage structure. All this will be raised for the development. So the RAO plan and enactment of the RAO district was recommended by the Planning Commission to permit the multifamily development approving lot sizes of less than 5,000 square feet for the individual 3-unit multifamily structures. They will definitely need to have the sidewalks depicted on the final plan for the finalizing the RAO. This was recommended by the Planning Department. I recommend your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. We will open the public hearing portion of this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this? Okay, we will close the public hearing portion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Bodger. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Walker. Any discussion? I have a question. The billboard that's there on the property, what happens to that?
We haven't addressed the billboard with the developer. I think that it goes, but I'm not certain. I need to make sure about that.
Couldn't know about that. Any other discussion? Okay, all vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7D, consider on first reading ordinance 022-1229, amending Title 16, Streets and Sidewalks, et cetera, of the Cookeville Municipal Code to insert a Chapter 9 entitlement, temporary street closures. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, as we discussed on Monday at our work session, this ordinance basically codifies what we're currently doing by just procedures that have developed over the last couple of decades. So again, it puts what we're currently doing in ordinance form. It does make some changes from what our current process is. Number one, it requires the payment of a non-refundable application fee of $100 for each temporary street closure permit that's issued. And that, of course, that comes nowhere near to cover the cost to us to review this and go through all the process, because this does involve several different departments, including the police department and the city clerk's office. But that would be new. And it also would increase the refundable cleanup deposit from $100, which is what we currently do, to $250. To my knowledge, we've never not returned the deposit for cleaning up. So in most cases, or every case that I'm aware of, those that have obtained permits have actually cleaned the street, so it's not been an issue. But if we ever did have an event that they didn't clean up, $100 is not going to pay for much for us to clean it up. So it is refundable, provided it's not that the streets are cleaned. It requires that the sponsor, the event sponsor, notify businesses impacted by the street closure. We have in the past on occasion had complaints from other businesses not involved in the street closure event that complained that nobody told them and they had planned for their businesses. So this would be just those businesses that are also located on the portion of the street that's being closed. We'd want whoever's having the event to let them know. We've added provisions, although this is already required, that if you're having a band or something that's going to create noise, you have to also get a noise permit and comply with our anti-noise provisions of the city code. The way it's currently drafted, and we had some discussion about this Monday, it limits the number of street closures per calendar year to 2 per event sponsor. So it's not the number of closures of a particular street. It's a sponsor could, the way it's drafted now, could only have 2 of these in a calendar year. And then the last significant change is proposed in this, well, this is not significant, but it does clarify, is that it clarifies that the event sponsor is responsible to provide traffic control. They're already required to do that. They do coordinate with Public Works. take the appropriate steps with the police department to make sure that traffic control of the street block is done appropriately. Also, and I'll note, and this is not new, but it is within our current procedure, this would codify, is that the event sponsor would be required to obtain liability insurance of up to $1 million, which the city would have to be identified as an additional insured. So I'm going to recommend your approval of this ordinance, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Is there a motion on 7D?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, provided we change section 16.914 to increase it from 2 to 4 events per year.
Okay. Remind me, we can second that. We don't have to make a new motion to amend, correct? Okay, so is there a second on that?
Motion.
Okay, second by Councilman Walker. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7E, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 022-1230, amending the budgets of the general fund, drug fund, tree board fund, economic development fund, and transportation fund of the city of Cookeville, Tennessee for the fiscal year ended in June 30, 2023. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council members, this ordinance will amend the budget for fiscal year 23 for 5 of our funds. And we're going to start with the general fund. We're going to increase the original budget for revenues by $1,025,786. That includes $160,000 for interest income, increasing the intergovernmental revenue $112,500, and increasing miscellaneous revenue sale of land for $753,286. This ordinance also increases the appropriation for expenditures in the general fund by $340,800. In the general department, it increases professional services for 2 things: an actuary cost for an OPEB update of $5,800 and a potential salary survey of $40,000. And contracted services for the police department of $5,000. And in capital expenditures, it appropriates $225,000 additional for grant expenditures for the LPRF grant. And then in the general department, it appropriates $65,000 for replacing the court software. So in the drug fund, which is a special revenue fund, this ordinance changes the revenue, increases the appropriation for revenues to $55,403. That's $32,000 for general sessions and criminal court fines, $20,403 for insurance proceeds, and interest earnings, $3,000. And then the increase in expenditures of $55,051 includes $33,000 for small items of equipment, $30,051 for a vehicle, and decreasing the other equipment line item by $8,000 for an item that they're not going to purchase. The tree board fund, this ordinance increases the budgeted revenue and the budget expenditure $7,400 to recognize a contribution we received from the Arbor Day Foundation for a tree distribution program. And in the Economic Development Fund, the ordinance increases revenue $577,985, recognizing sale of property of $572,985, and again, increasing interest earnings $5,000. The increase in appropriation for expenditures there is $15,000, $5,000 for professional services, and $10,000 for land right-of-way easements, et cetera. And then the final fund, we're increasing the appropriation for expenditures in the transportation fund by $770,000. And that's more or less a timing thing. And that's for phase 1 of 10th Street, which when we put the budget together back in the spring, we anticipated it being done by June 30th, and it wasn't. So that's to cover the expenditures that rolled into this fiscal year. That's the amount of the ordinance, and I would appreciate your approval on first reading and happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Emmel. I will open the public hearing portion of the meeting on this agenda item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this? Yes.
Larissa Williams, 1372 Ivy Lane. So I live off of 10th, and I'm here representing our neighborhood. So the next planning commission meeting, our neighborhood for Ivy Lane and others are going to be on the agenda. I'm curious to see more detail about the construction plans for 10th Street, not just the overview of total.
This is for phase one, which is the area, and city manager, you can help me with, but it's the area just around
You know,
Food City.
one level, it's the portion that's already completed.
Yeah,
So the improvements to 10th Street will be broken into 3 phases. What you're concerned about will be phase 2, which is in the right of way acquisition phase right now. And that's not being discussed tonight. So all we're talking about is a budget amendment to reflect what we've already spent to finish phase 1.
So this is more of an approval of what's already been
That's
spent.
correct.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
now phase 2 is going to be part of a bond issue that we've already approved. So that contract for the construction of it hasn't even been put out for bid yet.
So for something like that, when would we as a neighborhood organization need to be here for those conversations?
Well, in terms of the street construction,
It could be the street
the
construction.
street
it could be the
construction is already
66.
approved. There'll be no more discussion about the actual street construction. The funding's been approved, the construction's been approved, the street's been designed, the engineering's completed. A rezoning, which I think is what you're talking about, that'll go first to the planning commission. The planning commission, Mr. Ward will present it to the council to set a date for a public hearing. And at that time, anyone that wants to speak on that particular issue will be able to come and speak to the council about it.
So would that be for the planning commission to attend that? And then we would be discussing
both.
zoning then?
You can
Or
speak at planning commission and you can speak at city council. Rezoning takes approval of both the planning commission and the city council.
we did receive the letter for the planning commission meeting. Will we receive a letter for that as well?
For the council, no, you will not.
Okay,
But you will, it'll be published. We do have to publish a public notice. And John can tell you, and I'm sure he would announce when it goes to the planning commission, when it would be scheduled, assuming the planning commission approves it, when it would be scheduled to come before the council.
we have 3 major concerns that I think are totally unrelated to this. So I apologize,
No problem.
but this is not my wheelhouse.
You understand?
But we do have concerns about the Ivy Wall Street, 10th Street connection. And I know that'll be discussed at the next meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Eldridge and seconded by Councilman Gilbert. Is there any more discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7F, consider awarding bid for full service catered meal for father-daughter date night. Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, we advertised and received 1 bid for catering services for the 4 nights of father-daughter date night scheduled for February of 2023. This 1 bid that we received was from Vinny T's. Vinny T's has been our caterer for this event for the past several years. This is a reliable caterer, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion made by Councilman Bocci. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
When do tickets go on sale? January, I don't know the exact date, but it'll be after the first of the year. It's like the first Saturday in January or somewhere around there.
Thank you. 7G, consider approval to extend the closing date for the offer accepted on surplus property located at 545 Woodmont Circle at the August 18th, 2022 City Council meeting. Closing date extended at the November 3rd, 2022 City Council meeting. Mr. Turner.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a contract for the sale of the house on Woodmont Circle as shown in this picture. There's a contingency in this contract that they need to sell another property. They've got close to closing on it when the title company had a problem with the survey. So they're asking for another survey on that other property. Due to the delay on that, they're requesting that the closing date be extended to on or before January the 16th of 2023. They hope to beat that, but they're sort of relying on when the surveyor can get there. So I'm willing to answer any questions, but I recommend your approval on this.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion made by Councilman Gilbert. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. That completes our agenda portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Podium, yeah.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Eli Anderson. I'm actually a county commissioner in Morgan County. We do things a little differently in Morgan County, but it's nice to see how you guys conduct your meeting. I'm also a representative of the Student Government Association here at Tennessee Tech. And I'm a secretary of government and policy. And our student senate passed a resolution recently, basically about our relationship to Putnam County and the city of Cookeville. What it's about is we wanted to say that we appreciate the relationship. We would like to strengthen it. And part of that would be obviously under my duties as in my secretary position would be to reach out and get it tonight. So I'm not going to read it off. There's I believe there's probably a time limit, so I don't have time for that. But I would like to provide a copy for you, Madam Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we can speak after the meeting too. So thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll talk to you after. Yeah. Anyone else have anything they would like to add? Okay, I would just like to remind anybody, anything from the council? Nope. I just want to remind everyone for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony is Sunday at 6 o'clock. Rain, shine, mud, snow, whatever. We're going to light that tree on Sunday. So I'd like to see everyone come out and to let people know that they can bring a non-perishable item that's going to be donated to the partnership, Putnam Education Partnership, which will help stock the local schools' food pantries. So hopefully to everyone, we will see y'all there Sunday with some pretty weather. Meeting is adjourned.